If you are a man who most people would deem successful, but you yourself are starting to feel lost, purposeless, you can't really understand why you don't have the motivation or drive that you used to when you first started out, this video is for you. If you're in this position, you're often going to feel a lot of tiredness, fatigue, disinterest in things that, used to motivate you, used to interest you. You're not going to have a lot of motivation. You're not going to want to take risks anymore. And life is just going to kind of seem really boring. It's going to seem like it just goes from day to day. This is because you've hit something called the hedonic treadmill, or what I've classified as mountain theory. This is critical as a high performer for you to know, because if you don't understand exactly what's going on for you, a lot of therapists, a lot of coaches are going to misdiagnose you with depression, with low testosterone, and you're going to start feeling like something is wrong with you mentally, when really you have just achieved so much of your initial goal that you are now without true purpose and meaning that is actually motivating enough to be motivated by. Just imagine you're climbing a mountain, right? Let's say Mount Everest. It's high risk, high reward. A lot of people die and you have to train for a long time, something that takes a lot of effort, the right time, the right skill sets, the right people in order to succeed. A lot of men have this Mount Everest type of goal that takes them 5, 10, 15 years to achieve, where they're just training, they're grinding, they're working to morning, sacrificing sleep, sacrificing time with family. They've made their entire identity about getting to the peak of this mountain, about achieving this goal. What eventually happens is, as you get nearer to the peak, you start to see the view. And the view looks so beautiful, but at a certain point, you've mounted to the point of the summit where the view only gets gradually better, but not shockingly better. When you start off at the bottom and you see where you have to go, it seems so daunting. There's so much that you have to learn. It forces you to grow into an entirely different person. Whereas if you're already 7/8 up the mountain, getting to the peak doesn't necessarily feel motivating anymore. It feels terrifying because there's not much more of a skill set that you need to learn in order to get to the rest of the summit. So either you do something self-sabotaging to prevent you from ever getting to the summit and causes you to roll all the way back down the hill. That's where you get addicted to stimulants, drugs, sex, porn. You start to ruin your life in some way so that you can have a sub-zero start. You can rebuild yourself. Or you get to the top and you're just kind of circling around going, what now? And that's when the malaise sets in. That's when the distraught feelings set in. You don't want to self-sabotage because other people helped you climb the mountain. And what are you going to do? You're going to blow up the mountain so then they get blown up too? No, you're going to try to figure out what to do next, but you can only live at the top of a mountain for so long before you start to go, what is the point and what is the purpose of this? The view is not worthy enough anymore from what it was. You realize that the journey, the climbing up, the growth that you had in yourself was really what got you motivated in the first place. So how do I help my clients solve this? Most men come to see me when they're at the top of the mountain because they don't know what to do next. And they think that they've associated success with the goal, when really success is associated with the growth. That is where they found the joy. That is where they found the worthiness of chasing something in the first place. How much of themselves are they actually being productive in the world? A lot of men find when they accomplish these goals that they set out that take 5, 10, 15 years to accomplish, once they actually achieve them, there's very little celebration. It's kind of like, what do I do now? And they suddenly find themselves actually in a panic because they had based their entire identity around achieving this goal, and now that they've achieved it, they've got 40, 50, 60 years left to live, and they don't know who they are anymore. So if you're a man who finds himself at the top of Success Mountain feeling lost, confused, like he doesn't know who he is, feeling ashamed because you feel like you should be grateful, yet you're restless, you're feeling purposeless, don't worry, let's walk it through step by step what you need to do. First of all, you're not broken, there's nothing wrong with you, you don't need to force yourself to feel a certain way that you don't. Let's accept and acknowledge that this limbo, this identity crisis, happens when we achieve goals. Many people don't get to this point because A, they don't have big enough goals that cause them to have a complete identity shift, and B, they're not go-getters enough to actually achieve those goals. So when you are both a man who has huge goals and a man who achieves those goals, you're not just going to go through one identity crisis, you're going to go through multiple identity crises. It's how you approach them, and if you understand them, that's going to make the difference on how well you get through them, on how fast you get through them, and if they even impact you or not. The first thing I want you to acknowledge is that you've hit the top of the mountain. It's only the floor to another. We're focusing too much on the top of the mountain being the ceiling because we didn't take time, or we didn't understand that we needed to develop another goal after this one was achieved. When we can acknowledge that there's always going to be bigger goals that call out different parts of us that are forced to grow, we can start to relax a little bit, knowing that this isn't the end. However, you're probably finding yourself in a place of going, okay, well, what's next? I don't know how to figure that out. This was the highest ceiling that I could ever think of. Well, that's usually where someone like me comes in, or if you have a trusted friend or advisor who can push you to the next level. And I don't just mean one step up, I mean 10 steps up, 100 steps up. This is how we really dive into that in a way that is meaningful, in a way that actually that gets you off the hedonic treadmill instead of continuing to be on the spiral. This goal that you initially chose probably came from a place of feeling unworthy, invalidation, trying to make up for the things that you never had as a child, and you just haven't acknowledged them. And now that you're in this place where you're successful, that's usually when all of those emotions, all of those hidden gems start coming up, and they're there for us to heal. Once we start acknowledging those and healing those, we can craft and create a new mission, a new mountain, from a sense of already being worthy, already being healed, and having an impact that is internal, not just external. When we tie our mission to the external world of material goods, approval, trying to be worthy, even if it's subconscious, when we achieve that goal, we're inevitably going to feel empty because it didn't really mean anything. It was founded upon other people's approval, which is constantly changing with societal expectations, their emotions, their perspectives. And you're always going to feel like you can never make anybody happy, like nothing's ever good enough. But if you're coming from a place of just trying to impress yourself with the amount of growth that you've done, with the self-reflection, with the accountability, with the impact that you're having, you are going to feel eternally fulfilled no matter what anybody thinks of you, because you know from your heart and soul that you have a mission that is living out something valuable, something meaningful. And that is the place where we want to create the next mountain from. That being said, this is going to create a huge identity shift. So you have to be willing to die. You have to be willing to surrender. I get a lot of men in my DMs or who come to me trying to be clients who want new lives, but don't necessarily understand that they have to change their habits. They have to change their ways of thinking. They have to change who they are. If you want new results, you have to do different things. And it's not just based upon the tasks that you do. This isn't just an action item list that you can now check off. You're used to doing that. You have to do things that you're not used to. You have to allow surrender into your life, because that is how you get to the next level. Think about it like this. You're at the top of the mountain and you have mountaineering skills. So you're like, okay, I have these skills. What's the next mountain I can climb? But perhaps the next mountain doesn't require you to climb. The next mountain now requires you to fly, because you're at the top of the summit. This is how I want you to start thinking. When I reach the peak of something I've taken a long time to achieve, I may have to think so far outside the box of something that I didn't even know was possible, that I could do and that I should do. You keep thinking climbing when you need to start flying. A lot of these shifts are going to be mental. They're going to be challenging. They're going to feel frustrating because you've never done them before, and they're uncomfortable because you're scared that you're not going to get the same results that you got before, because what you were doing before was working for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And now someone's asking you to do something new that's going to create adversary in your life with your friends, with your family, maybe even with your coworkers or your clients or your employees. It feels crazy. It feels unrealistic. When you start going through it, you feel this inevitable change, this pull that you can't resist. Know within you that it's the truth, that there's no other way, that you have to be willing to let those things go, that you have to be willing to let those things die in order to reach the next peak. Some things are meant for you. that you simply cannot avoid. As much as you want to stay comfortable, as much as you want to stay in the same place or go back to how things were when you were feeling so good and so awesome, there are going to be moments where God, where life, where the universe calls you to the next level, and that next level is not pretty to get there. It's tough. It's low oxygen. It forces you to use every cell in your body to get to the next zone. It forces you to face loneliness, depression. It forces you to face things in your childhood that you were trying to avoid. But getting through it with a warrior mentality versus a victim mentality is going to make all the difference, because you're not being called to the next level against your will. You're not being called to the next level because you're a loser. You're being called to the next level because you're meant for something greater. How are you going to approach this next level? Are you going to approach it like someone who deserves to be a leader, to lead the path forward for others? Or are you going to approach it like it's forced against your will? Like someone who doesn't deserve the challenges that it takes to be great enough to get to the next peak, to get to the next summit. In order to be a man who truly deserves to feel purposeful, deserves to feel fulfilled, deserves to feel like he's on a mission, you have to be a man who's willing to go through the fire to get there, who's willing to go through the lessons to get there, who's willing to go through the hardships it takes to get there. Break all this down in 2 different programs that I have. One is Move Like the Elite for men who are just starting out. You have never really done therapy or any kind of self-development. You're just in this journey of kind of being lost, and you want to start moving like the elite. You want to address the accountability, the mindset, maybe the past traumas. That's who that program's for. Then I have Becoming Untouchable, which is for the men who are fairly successful in their business, who have done mindset, mental health work. They need to get to the next level that is becoming untouchable, totally mentally sovereign, protected from any and all enemies, narrowing down the weak spots that they have for themselves. That's who Becoming Untouchable is for. If you're interested in either of those, go ahead, click the link in my bio, check them out, see if they're right for you. Other than that, let me know what other problems you want me to help strategize as a high-performing man in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next video.